So firstly, Kevin, thank you very much indeed for sparing some time today. Really do appreciate it. You started with Martec in the very early days from memory, so just share a little bit of that with us if you can.
I'm gonna guess around 1992, Craig. I think it was. I was working in a Ford group at the time, and in a sales role, and we were put into the booth for the recordings and the coaching and the sort of critique and everything else. So I seem to recall about the late 90s or early 2000s. I seem to remember I was working in a Honda group up in North London, and I'm sure there was a piece of recording equipment locked in a metal box somewhere that was recording the sales executives' calls, and then the guy would come and padlock this box up, but it would be unlocked and the calls would be critiqued and we'd see the results that way. And then I think when you and I started discussing some work, when I moved over to Ireland, it was the fully blown sort of telephone success, which I'm missing a bit out because we've done it through Inchcape in the UK, as you said at the beginning, actually. Technologically it evolved, the process, the fundamentals of it all from the very start to today are exactly the same. I don't think there's any real change in that in terms of the exchange between a customer and a sales exec on a telephone, but it's just more sophisticated from an IT point of view. But 91 or 92 is what I'm thinking is when it started, yeah.
Almost 30 years on and off you've worked with a brand, which is with us, which is fantastic, really.
That relationship is maintained, and in fairness to you, you maintain that relationship. You don't allow it to go cold and wait for us to ring you and say, what are you doing next? So I think it's an ever-present relationship for me in my time in the car industry anyway.
Yeah, fantastic. We're really pleased to be working with you over the various businesses you work with, and it's great that it's had an impact in your world. So are there any particular experiences, thinking back in the early days for a moment, that sort of locked cabinet, that recording where initially you could only record the salesperson side of the conversation, were there any particular stories that you can think of or remember where that was a big thing for a lot of people, thinking, crumbs, my call's being recorded and what I've got to be coached on how to handle and say the right things? Do you remember anything in particular?
I found that the more people became comfortable with the recording process and actually forgot about the recording process, really, the first period of calls you can hear how staged they are. But then once people get over that anxiety and actually forget that the calls are being recorded, you start to get some real good details from it, and you can develop and develop and develop. And I think even coming forward to the current day, Craig, I was thinking about it when the COVID period hit, and okay, I'm on the manufacturer or distributor side these days, but I was thinking if I was back in my dealership days now with COVID, with all the work we'd done on telephone success, we would have been in a great place, because the contacts, you couldn't have that physical face-to-face contact with the customer over the last 12, 15 months or so. So your only real medium would have been over the telephone. So, if you've been coached at that and you've been skilled at that and you can make that call far more meaningful than the guy down the road, I think it's a competitive advantage,